the AAPL Constituency Podcast.
Welcome back to the AAPL Constituency Podcast, where we explore the people behind private lending, their stories, their journeys, and the moments that shaped who they are today. I'm your host, Linda Hyde, the president of AAPL, and today's episode is one I've been looking forward to because it's about evolution, resilience, and the courage it takes to grow into the leader that you're meant to be. This podcast is brought to you by the Mortgage Office, the leading loan management software for private lenders. TMO provides all-in-one platform for loan origination, loan servicing, fund management, and construction draws. TMO serves 1,100 plus lenders and was awarded the 2026 top-ranked loan servicing platform by G2. The Mortgage Office, where you can grow your business with accuracy and reliability. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Alessandra Mora from Flipco Financial, who always brings warmth, honesty, and a whole lot of heart to these conversations. It's so good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
And today, we'll do exactly that with Jeremy Altervain. Many of you know Jeremy with his sharp thinking and strong leadership, but today we're exploring the story behind all of that. The personal journey, the defining moments, and the lessons that shaped him. Jeremy, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Before Vault, and before brokering, before all of the licensing and everything that you did in your leadership roles, you were the guy that started out at McCoy and then Civic and trying just to find your role in the RTL and BPL world. When you think back to those early years and your path in private lending, what did it really look like? Like what drew you in and what tested you?
That's a great question. Thinking back, there was so much change in the lending space as a whole, and I had needed a change within me and within my business structure, and I was looking to, go down a different path. I even questioned whether I wanted to stay in the lending, and serendipitously, I ran into and was introduced to Dave Rosenberg, who had McCoy Capital at the time. And it was at a dinner, and I was complaining about, the state of our industry and how hard it was, and it was very difficult to make money. And he's like, "Have you ever heard of private lending?" And I said, "No." And he's like, "Let me introduce you." And so he, gave me very basic knowledge on, what it is, and I didn't know what it was. And I closed my first deal, and I remember how easy it was. And that it piqued an interest. It raised a brow. I was just like, what is this world? And how come I've never heard of it before? And, there was hesitation because back then in 2014, it wasn't called private money, it was called hard money. Mm-hmm. And there was such negative connotations associated with hard money. And from a reputational standpoint, I didn't want to be associated with something that was considered negative. I figured, how is that from an optic level going to affect me? And, am I associating myself with someone that is going to look down on me? And then I realized that, no, I'm providing a solution. If someone can't get regular financing and they need help, I'm able to offer an alternative solution. And that's when I started falling in love with lending again, because I like creating and structuring deals. To me, it's like it's my version of creating. Everyone has their own way of being, what their calling is. Some could be cooking, some could be art. Mine is structuring a deal and seeing it, following it through, not just, making sure that it goes from point A to point B, but navigating all the nuances and figuring out who to place the loan with, and it's going to fit. And then I'm going to get a smile from my client. You're the only one who figured it out. I went to 10 different people. Everyone said, too bad, so sad. You can't do it. And then I closed it. And it was with this new tool, so to speak. So that's how I got introduced to private money. And that's when I started really diving into it. And then to answer, I guess, the other part of your question, I'm giving you a long-winded answer. is that there was a part of me that was scared to pivot, to really be both feet in. I had 1 foot in and 1 foot out because I was afraid that it wasn't a sustainable job, or like I wouldn't get as many deals, and I was desperately seeking security, and I needed security, and my partner was very much a backbone and a supporter, and it's always good to have somebody to support you, to be on your side and say, hey, take the leap. You can take a test and pass even though you think you're going to fail, and just jump, and so I did. And that's how I got started with McCoy. And then by jumping and seeing my hustle, I got recruited by Civic. Kendra Rommel, saw me lobby surfing because I couldn't afford going to conferences. And so I decided I was going to go to their lobby and just talk to everyone. And then I got recruited by Civic. And then that's when I realized the importance of getting licensed, and then it just turned into a snowball effect.
And I know that you've had the support of your partner through everything. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yep.
And then just support of people in the industry. We've had those conversations,
Absolutely.
right? And helped you grow into the leader you are today. And I look at you as a leader, especially from a broker perspective and what you've built for Vault in that transition. So how is that in transitioning to your own company and your own brand and kind of building that and taking that leap away from a built company, right? An established company?
Yeah, again, great question. When the company that I was working for closed, that is when I decided that it was time for me to create me in my own entity. And again, another pivot, from one industry to another, to now, instead of working for a company, to create my own. And then after meeting people like yourself, Linda, from AAPL, and everyone in the space, that basically were mentors, but without being mentors, but just having the conversation, sitting down, networking, going to meetings or even receptions, and getting in from asking people, what do you do? How do you do it? And then relying on the support that I have from our community that kind of pushes you to say, you're okay and you can do it, is something that can't be purchased, right? So, again, scared, but did it. And then it's okay to reach out for help. Like I reach out to you for help. And one thing that I've learned throughout my career is to not be shy, and that people don't know that you need help unless you ask for it, And when you have organizations like AAPL and wonderful people that represent it or that members of it, when you ask for help and they're there to help you, that is, paramount, at least in helping you scale as a business, as an individual, because you get all the resources you need and they put you in touch with the right people that will help you, be who I am today. So that's it's a chosen family per se, right? So just align yourself with the right people, and they will elevate you and help you grow. So that's important.
When you were going through that pivot after Civic had
Right.
closed, and I'm sure you were getting headhunted by all kinds of people, but you're now dabbling with, should I open my own company? And before, you said security was very important to you. What was kind of the important priorities for you at that time that you were able to lean into starting your own business versus staying with that maybe more secure path of joining an established company again?
So yes, when Civic folded, I was approached by many players in our space. And one thing that I realized is, having a Nevada license and being a resident of Nevada was a commodity, and a hot one. Nevada being the most stringent state to obtain licensing, and you needed to have a qualified individual in order to originate. That was the appeal to all these other companies, and they wanted me. But I realized in having conversations with them that I was just going to rinse and repeat the same role that I was in with Civic. And one of the things that I thrive on is having freedom. And I love not being restricted to a credit box, and I get so many calls from so many different borrowers, sponsors, brokers, and even sometimes lenders saying, hey, this doesn't fit our credit box, but we know that you have resources at your fingertips where you know how to place a deal. So if I were to join another established institution, I would be put in a cage and I'd be restricted to that box. And for a lot of people, having a one credit box works for them. Mm-hmm. And for me, it dampens my creativity. I want to, if something doesn't fit, if a deal that comes to my desk doesn't fit one institution's credit box and I can't find another check writer or institution that has the bandwidth to consider this deal, then I feel like I just would have failed that person, failed that client, and then I wouldn't be true to who I am. So in realizing that, that's when I realized that working for an established institution was not going to be for me. And I play with my partner all the time as far as like having wings being clipped, and I would say established companies encourage their employees to grow as much as they can within their credit confines, but I want to grow beyond that. And so I realized very quickly that being a owner of my own company would allow me to spread my wings as far as I could, or as far as I wanted them to, you know what I mean? Yeah. To really explore the different credit boxes that I could offer to market.
Which actually is kind of funny because that's how we met, right? We were at a conference and I was introduced to you as this is the guy that can do anything. If you have any of the off the wall loans, like this is the one. And I was like, okay, because we get some of those weird things that come through. And I'm like, okay, so this is the guy I call. Mm-hmm. And then you left me at the hotel, but we won't go into that. You did come back to get me, so I will give you credit for that.
Oh,
and we've been good since, so it's just teasing you. But no, I mean that was always a big thing for us, right? Is that you can do the things that some people won't touch, and I think that that's great, and you have all those relationships. But the other thing that is really interesting and unique about you, and that I love, and that we talk about that's really unique about you and your business, is that you're licensed in all the states that you have to be licensed in, right, as a broker.
That's correct.
And that there are so many other companies and that they're not, right? So these groups are always looking. So as Alessandra said, like they're headhunting, but I think they're still pursuing you today, right? Yeah. And some of them want to be partners with you because they realize that you're not up for hire.
That's right.
You're not looking to work for somebody, but you are licensed. So that is really important in this industry because some of these companies can't do business in the states that you can. Nevada being the big one.
Right.
But there are others that are that way.
Correct.
So you went down that path, and we've had that conversation of you talking, and you're like, oh, it was easy.
Right.
But it's not easy for some of these people. So you want to talk about what it was like to be licensed, like some of the things that you went through, some of the struggles. I know it was a lot, but you make it sound so easy every time we talk about it. It was like, oh, I just took some tests, and I made phone calls, and, but it's a lot because not everybody's doing it.
What drove you to want to get the license? Because a lot of people, a lot of people use the term that they're a broker and they don't go through maybe any formal training. So what was it about you that you wanted to have kind of some of those credentials, or at least, whatever that licensure would get, knowing that it would open up doors for you? So how did you kind of come to that decision?
I don't ever want to say no. And I realized very quickly that licensing in the Western states, specifically 6, right, require licensing to do BPL and RTL loans. So when I started with Civic and I was only licensed in California, and I would get an Arizona deal or I would get a Nevada deal or a Utah deal, you can't do it. What? Why? You're not licensed there, you know? And I was like, so I immediately was like, well, I have to be licensed, you know? And some people are afraid of test taking. There is you have to commit to spending time studying, reading, taking practice exams. And, you know, for an individual who's licensed in one state, you have to take your continuing education every year anyway. So you're doing it. Mm-hmm. So why not do it a little more for all the other states? And so I looked at it from an investment perspective. I'm investing in myself. And I know that there's a lot of people in our industry, not just in the private lending, but in lending period, that just either make excuses that I don't have the time, I'm not a good test taker, I just, you know, it's too difficult or whatever. It's not that difficult, especially if you've been in the space for 2 to 3 to 4 years. You know the lingo, you know the guidelines, you know what LTV, and you have some basic knowledge. And, you know, being that it's a multiple choice, you know, 50% of it is deductive reasoning, the other 50 is knowledge-based. So that's why I'm saying it's really not, you don't have to be an authority in like textbook understanding, but if you use the same knowledge and logic that you applied towards your business, which is how do I stack a loan? How do I structure a deal? There's logic involved, you know? So if you apply that to taking an exam, and you can fail. I failed tests and I just picked myself up and took it again. I've taken a test 3 times before I passed, but I did it, you know? And once you pass your exam, all you have to do is renew every year. And the renewing part is just...
That's the easy part.
Right. So it's just, you know, it takes courage, and it takes, you know, looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, just do it. Just do it. Just go signing up, take the courses and take the test. And the next thing you know, you're licensed in that state. So whenever you get a call and like, hey, I have a deal in Utah, I got you. I can do it. And then, you know, if you have, you know, colleagues in the space that, you know, get a deal and they're like, hey, I'm not licensed in the States, can you do this loan for me? And I was like, sure, you know, and so it just kind of opens the door and gives you a much broader window of opportunity to capture more market share. So
And it's helped you build your business.
It's helped me build my business. And going back to what I first talked about as far as fear and feeling like needing security, if I didn't do that, then I would be self-inflicting that fear of not having enough security, because I'd be limiting myself to one state or to the states that don't need licensing. And I didn't want to be limited, going back to being in a box or being in a cage.
Would you say that that's a problem as you're looking at younger people who are joining the industry? There's oftentimes the easy way out, sort of I don't have time, like this is getting in the way. It's like if you want to make something a priority, you'll make it a priority. What are you seeing, or how do you encourage like others to actually start taking things seriously, of how you said, an investment in yourself? This isn't just a licensure to get a company more business. It's about building your own equity in yourself. So how do you kind of get people motivated in that way?
I do believe that loan originators that are trying to enter in our space are looking for an easy way out. They look at private money, DSCR, as the path of least resistance. They're not going through the trenches of, you know, having to go and ask for your blood type and your firstborn in conventional lending. But they look at our space as like, you don't need licensing, you don't need any documentation, you just slap it against the wall and then you get paid, you know? And that's not it, you know? And I am constantly advocating to anyone who talks to me the importance of knowing not only just the guidelines of your lenders, of who you're sending loans to. You need to understand the credit box, how to price a loan out, but it's your responsibility to know where you can lend. And some other brokers put that on the lender. If the lender allows me to submit a loan and I'm not licensed, that's not my problem. We all know there's no such thing as a free lunch, and you're gonna get caught. It's just a matter of time. All it takes is one audit, one deal that goes sideways, one foreclosure, one whatever, and then that state is gonna dive into your file, and then why aren't you licensed? And to me, no loan is worth rolling the dice on, period. So to tell the people that are entering this space, I would say your credibility and integrity is part of your foundation, and your foundation is making sure that your house is correct.
And I think that your philosophy there and like who you are in your core is why we asked you to help us build the broker program, right?
Yeah.
Like you led that for us and with us.
Yeah.
And it's something that we needed as an industry for so long, but we never really had somebody. So I actually went back and looked. We did a broker program, like a training, all the way back in 2014. Mm-hmm. But it didn't take.
Right.
And I wasn't happy with what was built. So we kind of let it go until we were content with then I meet you.
Yeah.
And really connected with you, and I love who you are. I respect that, and I think that that's important. What motivated you to work with us and really to take that role on? Because that was a big lift, right? Like you sat in on every training, every recording, of course, and Alessandra was saying that like that she had met you through that because she recorded a piece of it, and you sat on every session.
Yeah.
So that was a big time constraint for you. Like that we took a lot of time for that, but you donated that time for us, which we appreciated. So
thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. And I believe that, in life, one has to be constantly growing. You can't stay stagnant. And the reason why I took it on is because while I was helping our industry and brokers, learn about how to be a great broker in our space, I was also learning again in my guest appearances, being in part of all those recordings, having that banter going back and forth. It's a refresh. It's a reminder of why partnership matters, why having all of these, these connections where, it's just, you can never not learn. You're not like, okay, I'm there, I know everything, because industry change, right? Mm-hmm. And we have to pivot and we have to educate one another. And I believe that the back and forth, the banter, the spitfiring and all that stuff is another way of educating one another. So, being able to be a part of that, being able to showcase that in the broker certification course is just taking it to the next level of like, oh wow, like you've got all of these members of AAPL that are doing guest appearances and providing additional information on how it is to be, what is title, what's insurance, what is a budget, what is, fund control. And just like, these podcasts, having these conversations, I think is super informative.
I think that the conversations and the training in there is going to help just continue to grow our industry. And, we were talking in another conversation, brokers are becoming, the new thing, right? Mm-hmm, so right. I think that you were helping make sure that they're doing things the right way in the training and all the people that contributed, but you kind of leading that charge for us was really important. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I feel that in just this I think there's such a negative connotation with brokers, right? Yeah. Brokers have a bad rep. And I feel responsible to reset the tone of what a broker is, and I want to change their perspective.
Probably like a little similar when you were starting out. You're like, is this like loan sharking? Why do I want to associate myself with this? So it's like it's resetting the narrative on what this role is.
It's nailed it exactly, and that's why I wanted to do it.
Well, when life gets busy, which we know it always does, and I know that you guys are constantly going, you know, just in life, you and your partner are always busy doing something. You guys have a lot going on. Yeah. What keeps you grounded? Like, what keeps you, what habits keep you connected?
And I'm sure a lot of people are guilty of this, but I love to dive into work and make work everything. Constantly thinking about work.
Us?
I wonder why we all get along so well.
I mean, it's just like, similar. You know, and it's hard to shut off, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, and you know, I like to separate, you know, my personal growth is tied to my bottom line, but also I need to be able to separate church and state, right? So, you know, is it easy to hang my work coat when I leave my office before I get home so I can be present at home? Yes. Is it hard? Yes. You know, so I find that one needs to have hobbies outside of work, right? So your work is just a piece of the pie. It's not the whole pie. It doesn't define who you are. And don't let work define you. You know, you are an individual, you're a person, you're human, you have emotions, you have wants, needs, desires that go beyond the vocational scope, right? So I find my grounding to be out in nature. I need to be outside, either hiking, mountain biking, skiing. I need to swim in a lake. I need to go to a hot spring. I need to do those type of outdoor activities in order to bring me back to center, you know, and having, you know, touching the earth and being outside. And that really is my therapy that allows me to come back into our space, focused, rested, re-energized. But if I just keep going without, you know, getting outside of that our space, then I will be depleted and I won't be able to be my best self.
I think we've talked about it. I mean, we all have very similar conversations about connecting with people like on a relationship base, and if all it is that defines you is work, and I hate to say like that's all that you're bringing to the table, like there's life beyond that. And I'd say a lot of us connect just from a one-on-one person, and even with clients, it's understanding their story, their needs, their pains, kind of what's going on there. And it's like if you don't have any connection to the outside world or a sense of reality, it's very difficult to build those relationships then. So it's like, again, investing in yourself, of taking care of number one, because burnout is real, and that's when you hit the ceiling.
Yeah,
I feel like.
Absolutely.
It's so true.
Absolutely. Well, Jeremy, we want to thank you for showing up with such honesty and depth.
Yeah.
Your story is a powerful reminder that leadership isn't just about building a business. It's about growing as a person, staying self-aware, and being willing to evolve along the way. You've done a great job and done it with real intention.
Thank you very much.
We want to thank our sponsor, the Mortgage Office, the leading loan management software for private lenders. TMO provides an all-in-one platform for loan origination, loan servicing, fund management, and construction draws. TMO serves 1,100 plus lenders and was awarded the 2026 top-ranked loan servicing platform by G2. The Mortgage Office, where you can grow your business with accuracy and reliability. Alessandra, I want to thank you for leading with your voice and heart. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us for another podcast, an episode of AAPL Constituency.